new. Yeah, this has been there for a while. What you see there is a flight simulator which pilots use for training, and that for years has been on a hexapod system, 6-axis system, because it allows for front, up, down, side to side, as well as rotation like that. In industry, wherever there is any kind of precise machining to be done, they always use a hexapod system for placement. Space telescopes have always used a hexapod system for aiming, because it's so far away. You have a little bit here and there, instead of looking at one star, you're looking at the other star. So there, all these places are places where you have to use a precise positioning. So the hexapod is known in industry. What it does is, it allows you with the same set of connectors, it allows you distraction or compression, that is one axis in terms of length. It allows you angulation, this way, that way, front, back, any kind of bending. It allows you translation, side to side, front to back in any oblique plane, and it allows you rotation. So with the same 6 struts, without changing the struts, you can achieve all kinds of movement. But because this is 6 axes being corrected together, this cannot be done mentally. You know, the smartest man also is not able to do this kind of correction manually. You have to do this by means of a software program. So the hexapod is a collection of these struts, those Y connectors, and the program which does it. So it doesn't change the requirement of your knowing how to put a good fixator on. It doesn't change the requirement of you understanding what is the deformity. You still have to understand what is the deformity. You can use the software to tell the computer what to do, but what is to be done, that you have to know. Right? So this thing about, you know, computerized, you can, it's all right to, we use it, you can use it to impress a patient. Oh, I'm doing the latest computerized, and then use the laser on that and say laser assisted computerized. So this I'll just go through with you when I'm doing the software, when I'm doing the demo. The study has shown, their studies have shown that the accuracy of correction is in the range of 1 millimeter, as well as inside of 1 millimeter and degree. So this was patient with varus and shortening. These are standard ways of calculating the deformity, and then you have to calculate certain things as to where is the cora, and then where is it in relation to the ring, so that you are able to input into the software. And then you have to put in the mounting parameters. We'll see that in more detail in the demo. And the software then tells you that each distractor has to be turned so much if you want to get this corrected over 20 days. And by doing that, we are able to correct not only the angulation, varus angulation, but also a little bit of procurvatum which he had. Both of that can be corrected, and actually in this particular case we did a lengthening also. Yeah? Or this guy, that's where the osteotomy was. Then patient gets a graph like this to how he has to distract, and this is midway between the before the hexapod is removed. Angulation is corrected almost completely, again given a little bit of extension because he had a flexion deformity. That's the correction. And once the correction is over, the hexapod can be removed and regular rods like a regular Ilizarov can be put. You can also use it for fracture reduction when you have a patient coming to you late, like this, 3 weeks later. If you have to reduce this in a sort of open fashion, you would have to open it, do a lot of soft tissue stripping. On the other hand, if you use a fixator and get this gradually reduced in a stepwise fashion, which I'll show you here. क्या हो रहा है, नहीं हो रहा है? अरे इधर जैम हो रहा है, पहले दूसरा कर. तो पहले वो क्यों किया?
ये 3 करने के बाद ये इधर तक किया. एक 2 3 ये बराबर हो गया.
क्या बराबर हो गया? इसका लेंथ कितना है वो?
इसका 161. D1 161.
ठीक, मैं देखता हूँ एक मिनट. So you can get that well reduced, and then all of that gave way, and patient comes to us with this kind of situation 4-5 months down the line. So using the hexapod on the tibia and the femur, you can actually reposition the tibia under the femur like this. And then with this in the right position, it's kept like that with hinges over here, and patient can mobilize the knee. All the 4 patients that we've done up to now, they've got straight. Only one of them has required a ACL reconstruction. 3 of them have got away. They are not normal knees, of course, but they are much better than what was there. So there's a lot of, anywhere a Ilizarov, deformity correction can be done, a hexapod can be used, and that's sort of going to be the way. This is what they're doing in Germany right now. Calculate the deformity, and this is, the whole thing is motorized. So they just input all of that, so many days, so much of correction, and it can get the whole thing back to normal. Ultimately, that's where it would go. So I'll do a demo for you on a sawbone. I'll just have to get it into a deformed position. एक मिनट sure. Nomenclature or a way of naming these rods. So this is distractor 1 or D1, that one is distractor 2, next is distractor 3, distractor 4, distractor 5, and then distractor 6. As we go to the right. And that's the lateral view. Alright, so this is a fracture which has, say, come over after about 3 weeks, 4 weeks. If you have to do an open reduction, you would definitely need to do a fair bit of stripping. So in terms of the planning here, you have to do proper X-rays, orthogonal views. You have to use magnification markers so that you know when you are measuring lengths, you have to know exactly what are the correct lengths. There are some specific centering balls which come with the set which has to be used. And then you have to decide what is the deformity and what is the fulcrum that I am going to use. Fulcrum is the point around which I am going to turn it to correct the deformity. So that's an X-ray, you can say. So that's the proximal axis, that's the distal axis, both of them meeting over here. So the angulation point is over here, and that is so much of translation. Correct? Now there are 2 ways that I can there are 2 ways that I can move this around. One is around this Cora point. If I just move it like that, no, I have to show that एक ये देना मेरे को, tibia देना छोटा. Just show me that tibia. हाँ, I need a. if around this point, if I move it, everything gets corrected. So if I keep this as the fulcrum, it's straightened. Whereas if I do this and I straighten it, there is still a translation, and then I have to translate, right? So that's what we call in Ilizarov terms as the cora and the fulcrum. So just a closer view of the same thing. So here what we have to do is, what we are finding out, you'll see the red lines coming up. That's one red line which is the center of the plane of the ring. Then another red line which is between these two centering balls, and where these two lines intersect is the center of the ring. So I have to tell the software where is my fulcrum point in relation to the center of the ring. So that's why we do this calculation. So this is so much up, right? 2.3 millimeters up, and so much to the left. I am going to keep the fulcrum over there, not over here, because I am going to do it. I showed you two ways that I can correct it. One is keep the fulcrum down, and second is keep it up. So I am using that fulcrum up. Same thing on the lateral. Here we draw the plane of the hinge, then we draw the line joining the two balls. You get the center. This is not perfectly right, but you get the center. Then how much up is the fulcrum, how much anterior or posterior is the fulcrum. So the software has to know what is the size of the ring that you are using, and we have to define something known as static and dynamic. Static is normally in industry terms or in mechanical terms, if I say that I have a flexion deformity, okay, to straighten this I have to, this part is static and that part is dynamic. And even we think of, when you say varus and valgus, if I am going to correct a valgus deformity, you think it's the distal portion which is moving. But you can also, if I am sort of bent over this way and my bottom is static, then I can also turn like this and become straight. So static and dynamic can be depending on how you define it. So in these cases, usually we say that the lower ring is static, exactly like how it is here. The lower ring is not going to move, it's the upper rings which are going to move. Then we have to define what is the zero position, that is the anterior part of the ring. I think that we'll show you there, and define D1, what are the distractor lengths and where the Y adapters. So this is the screen of the software. So diameter is 140, and where these various Y connectors are connected in hole number 2, 15 and 29, and what is the length of all the distractors. So D1 is 161 millimeters, D2 is, so the moment I put that in, the software shows the orientation of the rings to each other, which kind of mimics what you see in actuality. And then we can give it the order of correction. So normally what we do is, we put all of these things together. In this particular situation, to demonstrate how it happens, I will show it to you one by one. So normally for a fracture, say a fracture like this, what will you do? You want to first distract it out to length so that nothing is engaging, right? Once it is distracted out to length, then you correct the angulation. Once the angulation is corrected, then you correct the translation. Then you correct the rotation, and finally you compress it. So for that, normal sequence of correction would be this, because right from this position, if you try to do everything together, obviously things are going to clash. That's the problem he was having actually. It was the fragments would sort of hitch onto each other. So in the software, we can say that we want to go up by 28 millimeters. So 28 millimeters means when I put in 28 millimeters there, it says D1 has to increase by 18 millimeters करना. ये D1 है इधर का. All right. So if I want distraction of 28 millimeters, D1 has to go up by 18, D2 by 27, D3 by 24, D4 by 22, and this one by 20. Rest of them are all like 20. तो ये वाला कर. That's now we are doing all of this in one go. When the patient does it, it is 1 millimeter per day kind of thing. शायद इसमें numbers होएगा देख. हाँ. So that's the numbers which have to come. D1 is 179. D1 179. D2 192. है क्या? शर्म आती है. 192 छोटा करना पड़ेगा थोड़ा. छोट. D3 216 होएगा नहीं. हाँ? Okay. D4 is 158. Don't confuse me. This is D1, D2, D3. D3, D4. D5. And D6, 145. Okay. So after doing that distraction on the AP, this is how it should look, which is what it looks like. And on the lateral, that's how it looks. So basically everything is cleared up from each other. Next step would be to correct the angulation. So in this software, for your angulations, to correct the angulation in this one in the AP, how would you? I told you this is the static and this is dynamic, right? So if you hold the ring on this side over here, how would you move it to correct that deformity? Down, right? So in the frontal plane, you can either do a right down or a right up, depending on what the deformity is. And if you look at the sagittal plane, you can do a anterior up, anterior down. Okay, that's the term that we use to describe it. So in this particular situation, we want a right down 24 and an anterior up 11 degrees, which is nothing but the angulation that we have measured on the X-rays. All right. So on the AP X-ray, this must be a varus deformity of 24 degrees, and on the lateral X-ray, this is a recurvatum of 11 degrees, right? It's just a different way of describing. So now to correct this, when we say calculate, it gives us this numbers, and you'll see on the diagram also the rings have become parallel. So that is minus 8.1, minus 42.5, and on, so after this on the lateral, on the AP, this is how it looks. Yeah, both parallel but translated, and on the lateral, that's how it looks, right? So we'll have to change ये करना जरा minus 8.1 एक पेपर पे लिख देना, minus 42.5, minus 41, minus 11. How are we for time? Okay. 15.6 and 27.4. Now, in terms of translations in this system, you can do, of course, up down is also a translation. When you distract, that's also a translation. It's in the axial, in the z axis. So you can do a right left and an anterior or posterior, which we normally think of. So if you do an anterior as well as medial, it's a slightly translated or oblique plane movement. All right. So in this particular case now, on the X-ray you can measure that I want so much translation to the front and so much translation to which direction? This is the static and this is the dynamic, right? So you want translation to the right and translation to the front, correct? By so many millimeters. Now if you look at my original planning, all of this can be done in the original plan also. Okay, by let's go to the AP first. Yeah, by how? One is how much up it has to go is the distance between this and this, the vertical distance, right? So if we measure this, we will find exactly the same distances. How much angulation? We already know, 24. And how much translation is this green line? So all of this data actually is got from the first X-ray itself, though it seems as if we are doing it, again and again. All that data is got from the first AP X-ray and also from the first lateral X-ray. The lengthening will be exactly the same because AP and lateral it will be the same amount. Angulation over here is 11 degrees and translation over here will be the perpendicular between these two. Okay. It's just that I have broken it up into the sequences so that it's easier to understand. कहीं अगर crash होएगा तो do the other ones and कौन सा बाकी है तेरा?
मेरा ये किया,
पहले प्लस किया ना?
पहले प्लस किया,
हाँ, अभी कौन सा बाकी कौन सा है?
D1 हो गया, अभी D2 का,
D2 ये है? नहीं, ये D2 है. D3 का कितना है?
41 है,
ओके.
11 D4.
ठीक है, चलेगा. Okay. So now you have angulations corrected. Both fragments are parallel to each other and translated on the AP as well as on the lateral. All right. So now we put in the translations. 18 millimeters to the right and 15 millimeters anterior. So minus 3.7 minus. We'll go to the last number actually. ये मत करना. Okay. So after that you get this amount of trans. In this particular model, we had also built in a little bit of rotation. So both are. See, the crest is well aligned, but the back is not perfectly aligned. So that kind of says that there is a little bit of rotation. Same thing on the lateral, reasonably well aligned. So then rotations. Now suppose I want to the rotation over here is the opposite. That's just a matter of nomenclature. If I want to move the distal fragment that way, what will I say? External rotation. But if I want external rotation, how do I have to move the tibia? The opposite way. Suppose I want to create external rotation here. Then the proximal end, if I am talking about static, it has to move to the right. And since we are always talking left, right, the anterior portion will move to the right or anterior portion will move to the left for rotation. So that's the nomenclature that is used. In this particular example, we said anterior right 10 degrees. Okay. So at the end of that, that's how the rotation would look. And on the lateral, that's how it looks. So now what is remaining? Only the compression. So अभी ये number पे कर दे इसको 159, 156, 176. D1 159. Second is 156. Huh? Okay, so on the AP, that's how it would look, and on the lateral, that's how it would look. And now all you need to do is measure how much this thing is required, compression is required, and do that, which is about 2 or 3 millimeters. Right? So sometimes even during the treatment, if you find that something is not going the way you want, you can always do an X-ray and treat that as a deformity. And all of this is done without changing these rods. You can do this with conventional Elizarov also. It's not that you can't do this with a but with a conventional Ilizarov, if you have to do angulation, the kind of frame is different. If you have to do translation, then you have to use a translation box or a translation device. And here the most important is you can do everything together. So you can do multiplanar deformities, chronic fracture deformities can be treated very well, and you can do it with a sort of amount of precision that was not. And negative is, of course, it requires proper planning, it requires software, proper input, where to put in the fulcrum, and it is costlier than a regular Ilizarov. And if my friend over there is allowed to ask a question, he'll ask, what if the computer hangs? Then you are in trouble. No, I'm just pulling your leg. So this was a similar kind of situation. I very routinely use Ilizarov for proximal tibial fractures. In this particular case anyway, because his skin was bad, there was no question of using internal fixation. So we can use the hexapod, put on the hexapod, and actually on table use the advantages of the hexapod. You can see this is translated in relation to each other. And on the lateral also, you can use that to micro manage your reduction to almost anatomical and put that thing under compression. So you don't have to struggle. Otherwise, with a conventional Ilizarov, what you would have to do is, you would have to first try to get that reduction or use olive wires or anything. We just put on the fixator as, you notice here now this center bolt and this center bolt, it's to the right. And look at it on the, there is no before. But we put on the fixator as is, then using the hexapod we can distract it, move it medially. It makes things just that much more easier. See this was the type of skin and soft tissue that he had. But he was able to walk reasonably well with the fixator without any trouble. Now there was one video that we were supposed to show, but the reason I didn't show the video is I think spending a little more time on explaining this would be more useful, and that video is with commentary and self-explanatory, and all of you all today have internet, thanks to BSNL Jindabad. So if you go to YouTube and remember my name, Mangal Parihar, all these videos about surgical application of the rail fixators, there's 3 or 4 different cases where that is available, or you can ask the Pitkar people also. They should be able to provide you with DVDs if you don't want to sort of get it off the net, but it's all easily available on